All right. Recording in progress.
So I want to welcome everyone to our first ever Wednesday night fellowship on Zoom. Maybe we'll ask everybody to turn their microphones down or off unless you're going to be speaking. Hopefully we won't get all this feedback. But thank you for joining us. Tonight we have a wonderful program featuring three of our church members who are going to teach you all about blogs, and we encourage you to ask questions. We're going to start with Aaron Washington, but before we do that, we want to ask our own Donna Foster to open our presentation with a blessing.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, be with us tonight as we learn from Aaron and John and Julia about something that they are passionate about blogging and how it affects their day-to-day, how they do things, how they operate as far as making a blog, and the people who I know I've read their blogs and they're awesome. Be with us as we meet in this first ever Wednesday night session via Zoom. Be with us and bless our meal that we have had beforehand or during, and just be with us as we meet tonight. All these things we ask. Amen.
Mm-hmm.
So Aaron, we'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
All right, awesome. Well, I think I know everyone on the call, but just in case not, I'm Aaron Washington. I've been going to Fourth since like 2010, I think, somewhere around there. But I'm here to talk to you about blogs. Now, my caveat is that I, unlike my co-presenters, Julia and John, I'm not a rock star regular blogger. Okay, I have a blog of my own, but the last time I posted, which you'll see at the end here when I share it with you, was quite a while ago. But what I wanted to do is just start us off by talking about what blogs are, why they are, how to find them, just things like that. So I'll just do this intro for a few minutes, and I'm going to ask you all to participate a few different times. I guarantee everyone here has read a blog, whether they know it or not. Does anyone want to start us off by like throwing out a definition of what a blog is? And there really isn't like a right, like there's different ways you can define it. So just jump at anyone who's listening, jump in. What do you think a blog is?
Online diary?
Okay, Kathy says online diary. Yeah, that's a great definition for a blog. What else? What are some other, you can just also like throw out characteristics of a blog too, like if you don't have an official definition.
Yeah, so blogs are interactive, aren't they?
Blogs are interactive. Yes, they are a way that there are ways that you can interact on blogs, certainly.
It's a two-way street where diary.
Yes, that's true. So it is kind of a form of an online diary or way to share information, but there's kind of this assumption that there's going to be some back and forth with people. Yep. Okay, anything else? All right. Well, I shall tell you a few characteristics here then. So what is a blog? So it's short for weblog, which I totally found out from Google this afternoon. Like a good librarian and Presbyterian, I had to do a little background research, a little history. So it's short for weblog. They've been around since really the internet was invented. So like the 90s were when we started to see the first blogs popping up. Kind of the height of blogs was like the early 2000s for probably the next decade, and the number of blogs is actually kind of on the downturn now that social media has exploded and taken over everything. But there are still just a bajillion of them out there. So Kathy said online diary. I think you could define a blog as any self-published material that you put out there online. So there's sort of this democratic nature of blogs, like literally anyone can use one of the many blog tools out there, which I'll get to in a second, and put some stuff up there. Okay. And then also it's there's also the assumption that there's going to be kind of a regular cadence of publishing, right? So Kathy said online diary, that's something you do every day, every week. Again, I have the regular part of my blog is not so much there anymore, but that's kind of the assumption. Okay, so next question is, why blog? Can anyone tell me some blogs that they have read regularly, follow? Like, anyone have something they want to share with us that they like?
I've read a health blog a lot.
Can you say that again, John?
I've read a health blog a lot.
Health blogs, yeah. So that's a type of blog that's out there is like a health blog or a lifestyle blog, health and wellness. That's a category of blog that's out there. And John, why do you like to read that blog?
Well, I mean, I'm going through a lot of health issues, so I just like to stay informed to get different opinions about how to maintain health.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm putting you on the spot a little bit here, but why? What's different about reading some of the health blogs that you read versus like going to WebMD.com and getting information?
Real different perspectives. Sometimes it could be like real outsider stuff you're not going to find on the mainstream sort of Dr. Google.
Yeah. So I think blogs also really speak to kind of this innate feeling that we have as humans to like want to seek out information from either like our friends, but also just kind of like our network, like people who have had experience, people who have been there. That's really valuable. That information that we can get on a blog that we really can't get anywhere else. Okay, anyone else want to share any blogs that they follow and maybe like why they are interested in them?
I follow Julia's blog,
Me too.
and I follow Anna McCarthy's blog, Kathy and Eric's daughter, Anna.
Mhm.
And then I get and I don't know if this is a blog or not, and Jan and I were just talking about it. We get an email. I guess it's not a blog then. We get an email every day from Heather Cox Richardson, who's a history professor at I think Boston University, that's political in nature. But I don't even know if that's considered a blog.
So I guess another
But
characteristic that I
basically blogs are uncurated, is that right?
um
They're uncurated by and large, except for maybe bad words or something like that, right? You can say what
Yeah.
you want to say,
yeah.
and as you choose a blog, for me, it's very difficult to choose a blogger because I'm choosing like an individual of something that I don't really know usually. And so I haven't depended on them very much.
Yep. No, that's it's a good point. Just from like a kind of, again, I'm putting on my librarian hat here, but like from an information literacy perspective, blogs, yes, they are uncurated other than by the person writing the blog, right? So you do have to, if you're reading something that, like Margaret said, is more political in nature, make sure that you're doing your fact checking. That's a lot different than maybe the Pioneer Woman's recipe blog, right? But that's another type of blog, right? Anyone go to Google and often land on the same like recipe site over and over. Recipes, those kinds of sites could also be considered blogs, even though they're sharing a recipe instead of like their stream of thoughts, right?
So
Okay.
there's somebody who's making their. Can everybody mute? Are y'all getting a feedback?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's better, I think. Yes. Okay, good, cool. So there are a lot of reasons to blog, right? But the main reason is that you are sharing your personal opinions, your thoughts, your recommendations, your expertise, perhaps, right? Like that is the point, is to share your own. And another aspect of this is that, I think when we think of blogs, we mainly think of like people's personal blogs, and the three of us who are presenters here maintain personal blogs. But I guarantee you have also landed on a web page that is the blog of like a product, where that business is trying to build their own brand by having a blog on their page. Like if we're talking about REI, they might have a blog as part of their website where they talk about outdoor things, and then that feeds back into REI's site, so you can go purchase lots of outdoorsy things to go do your adventures, right? And we could probably think of like a million versions of that, right? But that's kind of the big trend right now with businesses, is to have a blog and have kind of that folksy, like personal recommendation kind of vibe that then feeds into their brand. And ultimately, I think what people are doing when they blog, for whatever reason, or any of these reasons that we've talked about, is so that they can communicate with and engage with a specific audience. What's the main way that we engage on blogs? Anybody? Has anyone ever left a comment
I
at
was
the
about
bottom
to
of a
say,
blog?
usually comments or likes. It depends on what's on the blog. If you could hit a like button or comment, things like that.
Yeah. Yep. And this is one of the reasons why social media has overtaken blogs a little bit in the past, several years, is because it is a little bit slower of a form of communication, right? Blogs are longer, they're often more text-based, right? And if you leave a comment, then you wait for someone to respond, which you do on social media as well, but it's just like a little bit faster paced. But that's also a strength of blogs, right? You can go deeper and you can engage and talk to the people that you really want to talk to. Okay, there's more there, but I'm just trying to keep this a little bit surfacey and short, and stay in my allotted time. But how can I find blogs? So this is a little tricky, actually. Like it's hard to find blogs. Someone said that it's hard to kind of know which people to follow and who to find. I mean, Google is really the easiest way. Like if you have a topic that is important to you, put the topic in there and then put blog after it, and you'll probably get, thousands of results, right? Asking your friends and family is great, but also people and organizations that you already like and admire. You can, like Nadia Bolz-Weber is a Lutheran pastor. I follow her blog because I think she's a really intriguing person, and I'm always interested in what she has to say. And she also will, from time to time on her blog, link to other people's blogs that she thinks are interesting. So you can really follow a pretty solid rabbit trail just by finding one or two people, one or two blogs that you like, and then seeing which ones are recommended from there. That's how I like to do it. Also, and I mentioned organizations too, because something like Sojourners, right? Like they have a blog as a part of their magazine website. I forgot to check, I meant to before this session, whether like Christian Century has a blog. I'm guessing that they do, but it's like an extension of their publications, and it allows like different staff members that they have to go a little bit deeper, and for you to be able to, again, talking about engagement, like go on and engage and comment and talk if you want to. So those are my top tips. Some of my co-presenters might have some tips as well. All right, so just real quick, how do I start a blog? If you have information, expertise, artistic, like photos, art that you want to share, I think that would be great if you wanted to start your own blog. I use WordPress.com. I think that's one of the easiest ways to get started. That's like the best one, I think, for personal blogs. Medium is another one where you can create an account, you can start blogging, and that's another good one where they have tags so that you can search blogs that are related to topics that you're interested in. Squarespace, Wix is another one if you're looking for more photo, like very visual kind of blog. That's a good one. Tumblr makes it probably the easiest to connect into social media. Or you might have your own business or a side business, and you might have a website. Most websites have a blog feature on them where you can add a page that becomes your blog. Again, thinking of an extension of your brand or your personal business. So that is what I have to share. I wanted to know if there are any questions. I could just like pull up my blog real quick and show it, and then I'll turn it over to John. Did I stay in my allotted time, Kathy?
Julia, is Richard Rohr's email every morning, his meditations, is that considered a blog?
I think it's like a devotional. It's again like an e-news thing, but they are all, if you go to Center for Action and Contemplation, you can find them all there linked. So it sort of is, but yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, my voice is so weird, y'all. It's just been weird all day. So I have my medicine and I'm gonna be drinking that, but I'm sorry.
I would
Okay.
count that as a blog. It's kind of a question of semantics. It's like,
Yeah.
I think anything you're reading on a web page, you could call a blog in some way, shape, or form. I mean, he's not on WordPress, like writing all that out, but he's on a website giving his thoughts and feelings. So,
Right. So if, instead of like on mine, I have a subscription. So y'all are on my, Margaret, you're on my subscription. So when I post, I send that out, but I have it. So I don't put the whole thing there. I send you to I have a website, but if I put the whole thing there, that would be a blog that was just landing in your email. Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. Any other questions?
can we briefly see your website?
Yes, let me pull it up and then I'll reshare. So my blog is called facingthegray.wordpress.com, and I called it, well, let me reshare here. I called it that because this is kind of the whole top kind of, I'm blanking on the right word that I want to use. I like to talk and think about issues that are not black and white, but are gray instead. And so when I first started my blog, I used this to really think through and talk about some of these things. Like this is one that was around the time that all the debate over the flag coming down off the State House happened. These were my thoughts about having a biracial kid and watching cartoons with him. Thoughts on abortion and sex ed. So like I get into some topics here, and I like to do that just because like I'm having lots of thoughts about them and I want to know what other people think. And then what my blog kind of turned into a little bit later, my mother lived with early onset Alzheimer's disease for about a decade. And so some of it was like processing that experience as someone in my 20s and then 30s. And then when she died, I just worked through some of my emotions around that in this blog. But as you can see, the last time I posted was November 22nd, 2019. And this is kind of how blogs are laid out. You've probably noticed this, where the most recent post is first and then they go back in time from that. So that's my blog. Check it out if you want to. Let me know what you think. Leave me some comments, I'll write you back, I promise.
Thank you, Erin. I can't wait to check it out. I'm so intrigued by your topics that you have posted too. So thank you. Thank you. John, are you ready?
I think so. Yeah, go for it. It might take me a second to figure out the screen share. Erin had it nailed down so well.
There's a green
Oh, I see it.
button.
I see
Yep, right along the bottom.
it. Okay. All right, here we go. So, yeah, my name's John, and I'm going to pull up. Okay, so there's my website, and this is just a post. And just like Erin was saying, I think there's just great benefit. There's multiple reasons for starting a blog, and there's just great benefit to it if you want to do it. for me personally, it was just, when I got out of the hospital, I just wanted to see if I can achieve something, after brain surgery. So I just decided like every week I was going to write something. I knew I wanted to start a blog to do it. And if you're going to start one, and it could be any topic, for me, it was like a goal of like just writing about what I was going through. There's also health updates that I could share with friends and family, just because with what I was going through, brain surgery, cancer diagnosis, all that, I'd have to repeat the same story a ton of times. And I wasn't on any social media. So this is a better way to say, like, instead of having to repeat the same story a lot of times to friends, I could just say, hey, just go to my website and read this. And it worked fine. Um, so yeah, I started mine as just a goal, something to do every week. And I did it on a weekly basis for a long time. And then, yeah, the consistency I think is very key, not just to get a blog going, but for yourself and getting into that routine and finding and stuff, suddenly stuff that you're just interested in for 5 minutes, you can write a blog about, for pages and pages very easily. Once you just start really exploring something. And then my blog became sort of this thing that I realized like, oh, this is kind of like letters to my children, So for me, facing what I was facing, it's like, well, I really want to leave behind something that my kids, if something happens to me, my kids could see this and they would have something to remember me by. And I remember like when I was intentionally approaching it, and everybody has a different method, but I remember writing down in a journal, like, I guess, the original blog, just on pen and paper. I wrote down probably 20 topics that I could do. And I remember before I even posted anything, I probably wrote out, whether it's in like Word document or Notepad or Evernote, I wrote down probably 5 blog topics that I could post just kind of out of the gate. So those first 5 weeks were very easy. I could just post what I had already written, kind of doctor them up. And it's kind of crazy. You think it's all about the words and what you're going to say, but it's really not. Like once you get in there, it's about like the font you want, like, if you want to include any images or what it looks like. And it's kind of like, I think Julie and I have traded notes, like you kind of post your blog and you have like 2 laptops open because it doesn't look exactly the way you like it. And then you spend another 15 minutes tweaking it. And that's just all kind of part of it. But it can be for whatever, if you're feeling something, if you're feeling strong about something, it could be health issues like me, it could be politics, like, or it could be, life events similar to Aaron's. I had a friend whose mother was passing away of cancer, and she had a blog on it. And she was an extremely good writer, and that came through in her blog and everything. And something I learned from her is like, your blog is your space. So you can write what you want. There's comments on there. You can have those comments. You can delete those comments. It's your space. So you don't have to be you can accept those comments and respond to them or whatever you want. You don't have to follow any rules except your own. I mean, it's for you. And for what I've done, like, I don't know, it's, I've just kind of passed mine along by word of mouth, or ironically, like Paige will post it to her Facebook, and that's when I get a lot of attention, I'll say. Because like, I don't know, I think if you're going to start a blog, I wouldn't do it for lots of views or anything. Some people, I think, go into it for that reason, but that's never been my intent. Like, I just wanted to keep my family informed, my friends informed, and leave something behind that, was indicative of the type of person I was. But some people are really into it. I mean, if you it's crazy because when you're looking for, when you start a blog, you can buy your own website, your own domain. Like mine is johncato.com, but and obviously the most expensive websites or anything having to do with money or how to make money, like those are the blogs that probably generate the most traffic. And that to me was just felt really slimy. That wasn't my intent at all. I just wanted to write about myself, my struggle, and hopefully find other cancer survivors going through things and maybe help them a little bit. So I agree with Aaron as well. Like I have a WordPress website. It's probably the easiest website to use. WordPress.com is a great point to go. And WordPress.com is great. And that's where I started. They'll get everything done for you. And even if there's something really technical, if you're on website WordPress.com, they'll even like write out the code for you. It's great. And then I don't know, I was talking to my brother and he started his own website about tool reviews. So he convinced me to host my own website, and that's really kind of technical and complicated. So I ended up doing that, and that's been fine. It's a lot more expensive. You start doing anything technical, you kind of do yourself. So I've had to kind of teach myself a lot of that, but there's YouTube videos for everything. So if you get stuck on something, just watch a YouTube video. And I've had to do that a lot for figuring the stuff out I have. And there's lots of blogs about how to make blogs, obviously. And then I just wanted to point this out. There's lots of free image websites, like Pexels is one I use a lot. And if you ever use images in your blog posts, you have to give an attribution. And so you can just go here and look at any sort of category, and they have free images you can use on your website. And that's really helpful. You just have to give an attribution, and it's a copy and paste thing. So that's really nice. And then WordPress sites, like they let you like embed videos and everything very easily. It's very intuitive. And like I said, their help chat is like very helpful to help you figure anything out and everything like that. And I would just say, I think Julia and Aaron can speak to this. Just post whatever you're feeling. You'll be really surprised at what the response will be. You never know. Like you could be like, wow, this one's going to get a lot of response, and it just doesn't generate anything. And then, you'll post something that you think is just very random, and that ends up being the one that generates the most traffic. Like for me, I posted about a 4-year-old, a video game about a 4-year-old dying of cancer, who died of cancer. And that's my most popular blog on my website, which I think is crazy. But that's my most popular blog post. So I think that's, I don't know, am I at time, or any room for questions or anything?
I have a comment. In all this, I'm reminded, Red Smith, I think is the author of the quote, great sports writer, but he says writing is easy. Just sit down and open a vein and bleed.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how much of that is true.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of writing quotes. I love that one. And there's a writing quote out there. I don't know who said it, if it was F. Scott Fitzgerald or Hunter S. Thompson, I forget, but it's like he was talking to another writer, and he's like, I have an idea, I just haven't written it yet. And he's like, oh, you're talking about typing. Like the writing doesn't happen when you like sit down, like you're talking about typing. So that's always hit me. So like I write, so in that way, I like write when I go to bed and stuff. Like, it's like the thinking, that's your writing.
And then getting up and capturing it, that's the hard part, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, you gotta, whether it's a journal, a notepad, or something. Like I said, I had that journal, I wrote down 20 topics. So even if it's just like a phrase or a quote or something, that'll get you going. I do that a lot. Just write something down on a sticky note and have that around, put it on top of my laptop or something like that, and that's good. Thank you all for letting me share about my blog.
Thank you for sharing.
Thanks, John.
That was
Sure.
excellent.
Thanks.
Can we turn it over to Julia now? Hopefully she still has her voice.
I still have a little bit of a voice. Maybe
Bless
this
you.
is why I write, so I don't have to talk. Well, it's hard to follow those two because they're so well spoken, and also like they have such a clear idea of why they do what they do. And I think I kind of backed into blogs because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And when I first, I've always kind of written, but I really started when we moved to Greenville, and or I should say I moved back to Greenville in 2011. And we couldn't sell our house in Columbia. So we're living out in this house in Greer. We're sort of house sitting for these friends. And so our friends had grown up there, and his father had recently died, and his mom had gone to the Woodlands. And so they had this house. They didn't know what to do with it. So he said, you could stay there. So we were sort of house sitting, but which was amazing. But like when we walked in, it looked exactly like it looked when his mother walked out. So like I moved her clothes out of the closet, and there were a whole lot of like, I called it my wacky grandma house, because there was all these like world's best grandma and trinkets everywhere. And I had at the time, Jack was, sorry, hold on. Mark just refilled my medicine. I had a 3-year-old, Jack was 3, and a really big waggy-tailed dog. It was like, this is not going to work in this house. So I ended up like packing everything away. Mark had just started work at the governor's school, so he was busy all the time. And going from teaching college to teaching high school, which was totally different. And he had to work for certification to be able to do that. And he was teaching 1 class a week, a night class in Columbia on Monday nights. So, but as part of the deal, we couldn't change the telephone because Mrs. Lynn called periodically to hear the answering machine. So anyway, I was like really lonely and isolated, and I got a cell phone at that point. So I had a cell phone, but I couldn't really, it was crazy. It was crazy time. And I thought I was losing my mind. And I had moved from Columbia, where we had like a community, and I knew what I was doing, and I didn't feel like a really competent mother, but I felt like I knew what I was doing in the city. And so like all of that went away. I didn't have anything. And even though I was going back to 4th Pres, it was like going to my parents' 4th Pres. Like I didn't know anybody, and we are, old parents. And so the parents of like our children's people were way younger. So it was a hard time. I had a really hard year. And so and I was cleaning out Mrs. Lynn's house and trying to do it with like integrity and the way I would want somebody to take care of my mother's things. Like I found the silver stashed over the like refrigerator, like in it. So she felt like a character to me, and I started writing letters to her. Not that I ever sent, but like, because my mother had died by then. So I wrote like, what did you do with a 3-year-old boy in this house alone? Like, how did you survive it? So that is how I started kind of writing in person. And then I was kind of condensing them into letters. And then I started writing snippets of them, and kind of what you're saying, John, like people are like, how are things going? I was like, let me just tell you how things are going in Greenville. They're terrible. Like we love it, and it's really hard. And I don't have any friends, and I don't know what I'm doing, and I can't find the bank. And so and I'm not sleeping. So I had this friend in Columbia who was a computer guy, and I was like, I called Bobby, and I was like, so I've heard of these things like these blogs. I don't really know what they are, but I think I could, publish this sort of thing so that people could see it. And so he was just like, we were just talking. And he was asking me questions. I was like, I don't know. I don't really know what I'm probably going to do. He was like, what do you think it, like, what's your topic? Like, are you politics? Or are you health? Or are you, what? I was like, is there one for my random life? Because that's kind of what I'm writing about. And he was like, we'll just leave that open for now. Okay. So he had like set it up by the time I was done. And so I started on WordPress too, also, because it was kind of the easiest. But then when I got into it a little bit, I kind of want to, so I have a website now. And so my website is called This Uncharted Now. And that came because Jack was a completely difficult for me. I'm sure y'all would have been much better mothers to him than I was, but I was really hard as an infant. And one time, and like he was maybe 9 months old, and I was completely exhausted and at wit's end. And Mark came in and was like, what's wrong? And I'm like crying. And I said, I wake up every morning really well prepared for yesterday. And it was true. Like I would have this whole plan, but it was like this now, this today, right now, this uncharted, there's no map. It's every day is different. And so that's what this, like my random life felt like. It was like every day trying to figure out, God, what in the world are you asking of me today? Like, what are you calling me to do? Because I feel completely incompetent, but I trust you, but I am not trusting me right now. So this Uncharted Now is mine. So eventually I ended up getting a website because I had a little more control over what I wanted to do with it. And also it was just a long title and really hard to tell people how to find it. So like This Uncharted Now at WordPress.com or whatever, like it was at WordPress.wordpress.com or whatever it was at the time. And WordPress was a little clunky at that point too. So I ended up like buying that domain name. And then I built my site on Squarespace. And it's really good. It's, as John said, it kind of does all the code for you. You pick a template. That was the hardest part, is kind of picking a template of what you want it to look like. And then and it took me a long time because I was also doing it, with a toddler, to try to like figure out kind of what I thought I wanted it to look like. And then I posted periodically. But the other thing that really helped me eventually was I can also be a little bit of a perfectionist. And also writing is really hard for me. Like it's what I do and it's how I think and process, but it's also really hard. And then to send that out into the world is really hard. And so really anything else would be better than doing that. So I think I just need to do that other load of laundry. And actually, I think Jack needs to play this other game one more time. And I'm just going to take the dog for a walk because it's so hard to actually make myself do it. So what actually helped me eventually do it is I just, for accountability, for my own accountability, I said, I'm publishing on the 15th of every month. That's just what I'm going to do it, because otherwise it was too random and I wouldn't do it. And that way I thought, there are a few people who read this. There weren't many at the time. There are a few people who read it and maybe they'll just kind of, even if they don't ever tell me about it, I will feel that I have let the team down. If I said I was going to do something, I didn't do it. So that I totally did for me. And then, so now I think I've been published. I didn't look back, but so I think I've done one every month for 7 years. And so it's actually for me become really like, it's my spiritual discipline. And I do it not as much for me as for anyone else. I do it for me. And I sort of entrust it to you, entrust my inner space with you of who reads it or who doesn't. And I try to get beyond the fear of putting it out there. I don't know if y'all know the writer and author and researcher, Brene Brown, but she has something one time where she said, after her first TED talk, which like blew up and had like 1 million followers, is not what happened on my blog, by the way. But she said, I feel like I have a vulnerability hangover. And I feel that like every time I push publish, every time I push submit, I'm like, why did I just do that? Like, I just put myself out there in such a different way. And so every month, even still like seven years on. So for the people who subscribe, some of you are out there, thank you very much, because you're my encouragers to keep me doing it. But so for my subscribers, I send something out on the last day of the month or sometimes the first day of the month that says kind of like, here's what I've been thinking about. Because that's really what really started it for me is I just am a noticer. I just observe things. And I also realized that having small children, there was like no time to process that. And so this was like forcing me to kind of process a little bit that, and it would like, I would sort of declare an intention, I noticed this thing, and then it gave me something to sort of think about for a couple of weeks. Like, how would I write about that? What would I say? What else is connecting to that? What had happened in the sermon or in Richard Rohr's meditation, or what happened on my walk that related to that, and how can I put that together? So what I feel like my blog is me grappling with my right now moment of life and trying to do that in a context of faith, of what is God calling me to do, and how can I be faithful to that in this very messy reality. And I do feel like John said too, like it is because I've done it so consistently, that it is like a record of my children's lives too, as well as mine. But it's like it is true, that thing about childhood where like every day is forever, but the weeks and years go fast. And so I feel like sometimes in my blog, I've captured like some little snapshot moment of a child or both child or our interaction, and that will be valuable to them someday. So, but I think, I don't know which of you said it, maybe both of you have too, that it's in the writing that I figure out what I think about something. So I might have those little like, oh, I'm kind of thinking about this, or I kind of noticed that spider, or I had this weird interaction at a stoplight. But it's like sitting down and trying to make a cohesive narrative over that, and like an arc of a storyline of some sense that helps me figure out like, and then I really do try to put some kind of like, where is the God? Where's God in this? Like, where is God in this moment? And how can I connect to that so that life doesn't just blur through the hourglass, but that I'm taking stock of this now and the sacredness of the now. So I don't have, I asked Aaron, I don't know if you can pull up can you share your screen and like pull up because I didn't do that. So this is mine. This is my Squarespace, and I created a template, and then you can just like scroll up. So this is what they look like. So I pick one picture. I usually just pick one picture. I usually don't put a whole lot inside each essay. Sometimes I do. So it has a title, and it has one picture, and it has that little circle that says like June 15th, that one, The Promise of Living. So you can kind of scroll through them or not. And here's this one. And my dad actually told me that I needed to date them, because if you scroll through enough, you just see another January. You'd see 7 January 15th. So when you click on it, it actually does have the first line as the title and the actual date of the year too. But it's interesting to me sometimes to go back and look through like a year's worth or something and go like, wow, that I can't remember. That's weird that was just in August, because especially during pandemic, my sense of time is so messed up that it actually has helped me to have little like hooks to hang memories on, because I don't remember them. So I don't know if that was at all, Kathy, what you wanted me to talk about, but
it was fantastic. Oh my gosh. I'm blown away by all three of you. Your bravery, your stories. I don't know if I'm brave enough to do a blog, but you guys really are very inspirational.
Here's one thing I will tell you, going back to like how you respond or what happens, or it is very weird, and it is like terrifying to send it out there. And it is true, like John said, like the ones that I think like that knocked it out of the park, and I get like crickets, nothing. But sometimes like a random one, I'm like, well, that was like half-assed tomfoolery, and people are like, thank you so much for writing. Like, I have no idea. Like, you never know. I never know what's going to land where people want it. But I will say that in the last few years, with the like chaos of our world and politics and divisiveness and chaos, I feel like I had been kind of playing nice a lot with my blog. Like I try to like aim for some sense of like enough raw emotion that it feels real, like that is not, I try not to polish it too much actually, because that's my tendency, but I try to like kind of keep it real. But what I found was when I actually just, the braver I was about stating how clearly I felt about something, the more response I got for people saying, thank you for being brave in the moment. So the braver I was, the more response I got, and the more like watered down it was just like everything else everybody was hearing. So that has actually encouraged me, like you, my readers, have encouraged me a lot to be brave and to say, put a stake in the ground, because I think this is what people are looking for right now. And especially like Aaron, like the shades of gray, that is where most people are and nobody's talking about it. So to try to put a stake in the ground of, abortion is really complicated. Of course I don't want abortion. And yes, I think people should be able to have them. Like being able to kind of claim something and do it in a real way that feels, sorry, they was gonna come down. That feels honest and not confrontational, but just like my honest struggling. I think that's probably where Aaron and John and my blogs are all, where the responses really usually come.
I have a practical question. I know when I write something to my boss at work, if I go over a page, I'm done. Okay. Is there a practical limit to how long a blog should be? Blog entry.
It's like how much your readers will read.
Yeah, I don't think there are any rules about that really. Especially since blogs can be, mine are very like text heavy. I mean, they are basically just writing, but some blogs are really visual. And so, yeah, those can be long or short. I think that's fine. I think what jumped into my head when Julia was talking is, and I meant to say this during my presentation, is that I think blogs are a really good way for us to explore perspectives that are really unlike our own and get out of the echo chamber. What kind of bias is that, Julia? Is it confirmation bias? Yeah, like we tend to search out opinions and voices that match what we already think, right? But I actually intentionally read blogs of people that I don't like, would never want to meet or talk to, just because I want to know what they're saying, and like the people who are influenced by them and who I know are influenced by them are thinking. But then on like the positive spin of that, like I think blogs are a great way to, like, we can really easily and intentionally seek out people who maybe we do agree with in like our value system, but are a different like race or ethnicity or whatever. Just like explore our differences and our sameness all kind of at the same time.
Thank you.
I was just gonna say,
Yeah, go ahead,
sorry,
John.
about the page length thing. I was just gonna say, I don't think there's any set. It's just whatever you feel, whatever you think is going to sustain somebody's attention, and then you can also mix it up. Like you can have how you lay out your blog. You could have tabs for, like I have a tab for my health updates. I have a tab which could be lengthy. I have a tab for my usual like ponderings and like true blog, and then I have a tab for kind of like my origin story, like how I got into this mess. And that tab's like 26,000 words. So like, that's a ton. So like, don't be afraid to like mess with the layout. You can write as much or as little as you want. So, and I don't mean to speak for all the other bloggers, but I think like, hey, if you have any questions besides just this Wednesday night, feel free to reach out to us in any way, shape or form. We'd be glad to help you as much as we can.
Yeah, I have 15 years of blogs. They just happen to be behind a big password and they're private.
And that's okay too. I think, right? You know, if you write a blog and nobody reads it, you still got
The public versus
something good from it.
one that intrigues me.
I think too, when you talk about length, like when I read y'all's, it leaves me wanting more. So I think that when you have that feeling after you've read something that you all have blogged about, like you're ready for the next thing that you're going to publish. I think that's how you want to, leave people, that they do want to come back to read more of your content.
Are we, any other comments, questions, thoughts? I hate to end us, but we've gone a lot over our time, but what a great topic. And
Well, it has been, and thanks to John and Aaron and Julia for bearing your souls and encouraging others to do the same. It's been really, really great. Thank you, Kathy, for putting it together.
well, and Donna too. Donna was
And Donna.
always the backbone of everything. Thank you, Donna. And we planned a mental health, sort of a looking after your mental health night, which was going to come first, and that is going to happen next week. So I hope you'll join us for the same time, same place. Frank and Jennifer Clark will be here to kind of expand on the idea of other ways to protect your mental health. So we'll be back, and I would call this a success. Great job, everybody. Thanks so much for
all
coming
attending
and
too.
joining us, and
Thanks for having us.
have a great rest of your week, and hope to see you on Sunday.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Kathy, you want to stay on for a second?
I sure will.
Thanks, John.
I think it would be cool, Donna, with the recording to maybe put a link to all these websites. I can get them.
Okay.
Send them to Lily.
Have you stopped the recording?
No, but I will.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be great. I think to